Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fortress Comic News, episode 424. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and thank God my co-host Mike is back this week. Welcome back, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, I was going to open up with saying back by unpopular demand. I would say the fans do prefer Travis Gibb over myself, so I'm sorry to disappoint everybody this week, but I'll be popping in and out periodically.
I love Travis. I thank Travis for doing that for me, especially literally like a day before he goes on a cruise.
Yeah.
I suck at reading the notes out loud, Mike, and I'm so thankful that you do it. And I have to be reminded of that every once in a while by you not being here. So thanks for being here and doing that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the things you do too, and a little glimpse behind the curtain, everybody. I'm going to be absent probably once a month just this summer because I have a shit ton of work travel, and planning for a wedding outside of that work travel is just taking a lot of my time, and I will be here as much as I can for the fans. But there's only so much a Mike to go around, I guess. If I can only clone myself, that would be great. But alas, okay, getting out of the real shit, we're back with the show. We do have an interview today. Chris O'Hara's back. And yeah, it's Chris O'Hara from February. So we're going to talk about his book on Kickstarter. We're also going to talk about my little book that he published on Bedbox Shorts on Global Comics. If you want to talk about that, check it out. Shout out to R.H. Stewart, amazing artist that I worked with. Bram Meehan, who did the lettering. I messed that up in the interview, but I'm doing it at the start of the show. Not going to mess that up now. Shout out to those guys and getting their stuff out there in the world. So,
I mean, as always with the interviews, I say it in the interview, you'll hear it again, but in the show notes, all the stuff you need. But also, it's been added to our regular show notes that your comic is linked every week. So everybody just, If you haven't read it by now, what the fuck? Come on.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You're not reading the show notes?
You're not a fan.
I put some work into that. Not a lot.
Think about this. Travis Gibbs got about 1,000 comics to read. I only have 4 pages. Think about it. Who's easier to keep up with the continuity, really? When you think, no, thanks for Travis for stepping in. Love the guy, and putting in so much time before his cruise. So that dude loves comics for sure.
There was two funny things about last week's episode. One is how much fucking news there was, Mike.
Yeah.
Of course, like you weren't here for the big news week,
right?
I think you're here for the big news week, but
yeah. Not the volume of news, but the biggest thing to drop, for sure, yeah.
Because we're going to talk about probably the biggest thing to happen in 20 plus years. But also just that you were on a work trip, and then you were here near me for like an afternoon.
Yeah.
And literally as I'm getting ready to record, I get a text from Mike, everybody.
I know.
Yeah, and it's, hey, I'm at a brewery that's 8 minutes from your house.
I know.
Do you want to stop by? And I was like, well, I'm getting on with Travis, so I'll see you at the end. And then me and Travis, of course, go on for 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good. And I my planning aside, I was like, man, I didn't know if people like outside of the family and friends were invited, and it was just a whirlwind of a weekend. I drove down for the day, come back, and it's like, here I am. Yeah. Anyways, so we did have some big news drop, which is crazy. I was actually talking to people about it at the Magic shop, playing Magic. I was like, did you guys hear about this new comic that came out? And they're like, no, we didn't. I said, well, let me tell you. So we're gonna be talking about that. But we won't bury the lead here. We're gonna get to that part of the comic news.
Yeah, and I want to say, because did you finish Last of Us, or did you? Die out with the rest of the...
So the game or the show?
The show.
No.
Okay, because... so, just quick until we get into the news.
Yeah.
Now that I finished the game, so game's done, I can now watch the show. And I'll say, really good game. I like what it's about. I won't spoil it, because from what I heard, the season does not end with the game. There's going to be another season to complete the story.
The game is going to be. They're even talking about 3 seasons for the second game, which is whatever.
Which is insane. But 2 I get because of spoilers, I guess, but you play the game basically twice, but from the perspective of two characters.
Okay.
And then you end the game once again with the main character.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. I like what it's about, all that. And I'm ready to watch the show. I think it's funny that the show, after Joel's, I guess, spoilers for episode 2, but it's in the first 10 minutes of the game, and it's in episode 2 of the show. I mean, get over it. After Joel's death, they lost over half their audience, which I find funny. So I'm going to be jumping into the show soon to see if I can get past episode 2.
That is the Pedro effect.
Yeah. Really. But I literally am on the last episode of Sons of Anarchy. I've been rewatching that because I love that show. Nice. And was literally watching the last episode when Mike texts me and goes, "Hey, just so you know, me and the interviewer in the studio right now."
Wait, I popped in and he was in there by himself, and I was like, oh, there's no Chris. I was like, well, if Chris is here, we can get started. So, I mean, we were just hanging out.
Yeah,
but
so yeah, I'll be done with that, and I'll probably start Last of Us tonight or tomorrow, and maybe by next week I'll be able to tell you what I think and if I dropped off like the rest of the world.
Let us know. And also, before we get into the news, I started The Expanse. Did you ever watch that show?
No, but I'm reading the books. I'm on book 4.
Okay, really like it. It's like sci-fi, a little bit of horror, a little bit of noir. So I was going to say it's right up your alley. It's like sci-fi noir mostly. Yeah.
The books are like sci-fi military.
Yeah, this is some military, but the first season is really noir with I can't think of the guy's name. Thomas Jane, who plays the Punisher. Has like the detective guy. It's really cool. Really like it. I watched through all my plane rides, I watched like the first full season. I was like, damn, this is really good. So, just diving into that, which is fun.
Yeah, I've been slowly reading the books throughout. I think I did the first 3 books, and then there's short stories in between books too. So I would read like the novella for number 0, and then 1, and then whatever the short story is in between, and so on, so on. So I've been making my way through it. There's like 8 or 9 books, so and they're long
That's what I've heard.
Mike.
Yeah. I another friend had he only reads sci-fi. Said you should, if you never watched The Expanse, watch it. I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. I needed something to watch in the plane, and then I was like, hooked. It is really the whole like world building. It is kind of realistic, I would say too, at least from what I've seen in the show. Of like
that's kind of what the author was going for. It's like it's a military style. Like what if today we made it to that point? Kind of.
What if we got to Mars and it's kind of scary. It's like I don't want to. It's like, man, I could see this actually happening. So, really good stuff. But with that, I guess we'll jump into the news. Movie news. According to reports, there's trouble surrounding the Constantine 2 film. Don't pull on my heartstrings like this. Peter Stormare, who played Satan in the first film, said to the director, "It's
to the direct." That's a website.
To the direct. Sorry, not the director. I think Keanu, who I know pretty good, is not so happy with the scripts, and usually what comes up out of the studios, I think Keanu says, "I've done John Wick. This movie is spiritual. It's about demons and regular people, and I wanted to keep it that way." And we talked about that. I think Keanu, he wants to do a sequel that is very close to the first one. So it sounds maybe the scripts are more of him being John Wick.
Yeah, and it sounds. I read a few articles about this. It sounds like they want to do like a big budget superhero movie.
Yeah, which isn't
Constantine.
Which is not why we like the first one was so awesome because he was just walking around this underground world we didn't know about. He wasn't punching everybody in the face.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is a DC Films movie or not.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah. I don't know what their plan is. Maybe it's an Elseworlds movie. I don't know. But still, if it's under that umbrella, you already have your big superhero movies. Let this be one of your Clayface horror movie. You're kind of lower budget. Let's do something off the beaten path. See if we can make some money off it.
Yep.
Thing. It doesn't have to be the next John Wick, and it shouldn't be the next John Wick.
Yeah, come on.
No. But I know you said don't tug at my heartstrings, and I get that. At the same time, I would rather this movie not get made.
Oh, 100%.
Than it be a giant steaming pile of shit.
No,
and I think Keanu wants to is thinking the same way I am. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
Let's
like,
not ruin this.
I'd rather not have it. I don't want to see it at all if that's what they're going to make it, like this big CGI bullshit. It's come on. The first one is so good and like a cult classic now just because of what it was, and it doesn't need to be that big of a budget. Yeah,
no, it doesn't need to be a big summer popcorn movie. It can be the one, wherever in the year that if you spent 10, you'll be happy if you make 20, and
right. And like, I don't know, maybe some streaming service will pick it up and not care about the profits, but like this is at the end of the day where we see like the Hollywood execs bleeding into the art form of like, man, they just made this to try to make a quick buck and build a universe off of. It's like, come on, that's not why we want this movie to be made.
Yeah, they saw comic book stuff's popular. Let's do it. Like we have this comic book thing, and people loved the first one. Let's do it again.
Right. Let's do it again.
Except let's do it our way, which is going to be worse.
Yeah. San Diego Comic-Con is right around the corner. Oh God, it is. And we got news as to what Marvel Studios and DC Films will be bringing to the show, which is awesome because I don't think it's been like a few years since they've showed up with film stuff, right? To San Diego, Hall H. I think it's been a while. Last year for sure, no movie stuff.
Marvel Studios last year, I'm pretty sure did because I feel like that's when we got the Avengers stuff.
Was it
Marvel?
I don't think that was at San Diego. I thought it was at the Disney thing. You could prove me wrong though.
San Diego Comic-Con 2024,
or was that New York Comic-Con?
Yep, all news from Panel H right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, okay,
that was big. Captain America: Brave New World, Thunderbolts. Yeah.
Okay. DC hasn't been in a while though.
DC hasn't in a while. Marvel is pretty consistent every year.
Every year, okay.
Which is why what you're about to say is shocking.
Yeah. Well, Marvel will have a presence of the show to promote comics, video games, as well as the Fantastic Four movie. They're not doing a Hall H panel, folks. So there we go.
Which that's what they do every year.
Yeah, they do a Hall H panel every year.
It's the biggest panel every year. It's the one that because Kevin Smith does a Hall H panel every year too, nowhere near as big. Yep. And he usually does the one right before Marvel, and you can always hear him talking about like how he just kind of slinks to the back and watches the Marvel one because he's like, no one's gonna say anything. Yeah, so I'm pretty shocked by this because, and they said something about with the delays and everything, we didn't want to make a big fuss or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you still got shows coming out,
right?
You have a whole slate of shows coming out.
Not even having a Fantastic Four panel. It's crazy.
I mean, it's after Fantastic Four's in theaters. I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, but you have a Spider-Man movie you're planning. You have all these shows that are on the docket ready to go. We could talk about those. And why not do a stupid announcement that later you're like, oh yeah, we're delaying that too. Like you do it every year. Just do that.
Yeah, why not? Unless they've been asked like to hold it for their Disney one.
Just tell me when the Dupe movie's coming. Like do that.
When are you getting? When are we getting the Dupe movie? On the other side of that, DC is going to plan to promote and announce new comics and more, but DC Films will hold one panel and talk about the new season of Peacemaker. So hell yeah. Excited for that. Hopefully they talk a little bit more about the future of the DC films. I'm sure they're probably hiding something, but I guess we'll wait and see.
I wonder. I kind of hope they don't.
Because Peacemaker season 2 will already be out by then, right?
No, it's August.
Oh, it is August?
Yeah. For some reason, I'm pretty sure it's August. You can double check me on that.
Yeah.
I kind of hope they don't for the pure fact of this is in July that San Diego Comic Con is happening. So both we talk about Fantastic Four will be out. I believe Superman will also be out.
Mm-hmm.
Give Superman its time and see if people connect with it. See if it's going to do what you thought it was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then build this is our 10-year plan bullshit.
That's true.
Let it go for a little bit.
Yeah, don't overwhelm people.
Remember, I get San Diego Comic-Con's the biggest Comic-Con of the year. It's in San Diego. It's in California, all that shit. New York Comic-Con's not that far away from San Diego in terms of time. It's in October. You can always do some of that then and talk more about your big universe spanning. This is what's next. This is what we're getting for Batman. This is what we're getting for this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. And why not focus on Peacemaker? Peacemaker's your next big thing after Superman.
Yeah, and you're right. End of August. Yep.
Okay, good.
August 21st.
Memory's not that terrible then.
No, you still got it. Comic news. So this is kind of crazy. So Marvel and DC have announced their first crossover comic since the JLA Avengers. That was in 2004. So what, 21 years? It's been 21 years, folks. Over 2 decades since these companies could hash it out to make more money.
I think the last issue came out in March of 2004.
Okay.
When I looked it up, so it'll be literally over 21 years by the time this comes out. Yeah,
that's crazy. We're gonna see Batman and Deadpool meeting each other for the first time. So we're getting both. We're getting both companies working together. Then they said, what 2 characters should we pitch? Okay, well, who are our 2 most selling number ones? Deadpool. I feel like it's always Spider-Man, but I guess
it's Spider-Man. Yeah,
yeah.
Deadpool is
yeah.
Deadpool is a big seller at Marvel. I'm not going to deny that as somebody that hates Deadpool with all his heart. He's nowhere near he's not the top.
Yeah.
There are much bigger sellers than Deadpool. So he just has a huge fan base that consistently sticks with him. Mm-hmm. That's the key with Deadpool.
So, you're probably wondering, like, okay, how are we going to get Chris to read a Deadpool book? Will you put Batman in it? And then how are we going to get Chris to read that again? We'll talk about some of the creators. It'll feature 2 one-shot comics featuring creative teams from both creative teams from both companies. So here we go. Coming out first will be Marvel's issue in September titled Deadpool Batman from writer Zeb Wells and artist Greg Capullo. So Zeb Wells of this show, Chris, right? If I'm not No, we didn't have. No, I'm sorry. We had another Wells on the show. But Greg Capullo doing the art, Zeb Wells writing. We're getting Greg Capullo doing Batman again, and Batman and Deadpool together.
Yeah, what's funny, I have a lot to say about this. So what's funny to me is this came together, and Marvel was like, "Hey, we have one of the best Batman artists in like 20 years.
That's at Marvel now. So let's get him to do Batman.
So let's get him to do it."
Yeah,
and nothing against Zeb Wells, but
yeah.
I guess this goes into something I'll say later, but it was confusing to me at first why Zeb Wells got the job.
Right.
Because Zeb Wells did a Spider-Man run that, from what I heard, Spider-Man fans were kind of meh on. Mm-hmm. And I've read some of his stuff. He's not a bad writer. I think he does good work, but he's not somebody that the name pops out and I'm like, I gotta get a Zeb Wells book. Yeah. So nothing against him. It's just his lot in this industry right now. So it was an interesting choice to be the lead writer on their issue, is what I'll say.
Yeah,
but we'll circle back to that at the end.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in a second. So here's the synopsis for Deadpool Batman as opposed to Batpool, Batman, Deadpool. It's the crossover we never expected but always wanted. Deadpool and Batman cross swords and batarangs as Marvel and DC unite for the first time in decades. Wade Wilson has been hired for a job in Gotham City, but will the world's greatest detective help him or destroy him? Pretty simple story. That's all I need to know. The next one is from DC Comics. Will follow in November with Batman Deadpool. And now this team up is like, okay, you got your DH
which
coming in.
I'll cut in real quick. It's funny that they switched the name. They've always done this. So if you see the old crossovers, whatever company is publishing the issue, they
put their name first.
And even when they did JLA Avengers, which everybody knows is JLA Avengers.
Yeah.
But because I have the single issues, if you see the issues, DC printed the odd numbered ones and Marvel printed the even number ones, or maybe it's the other way around. Uh-huh. But whoever printed it, their team came first. So 2 of the issues are JLA Avengers, 2 of the issues are Avengers JLA.
Love that.
It's the little pettiness in this that I love too.
No, it's my comic.
Yeah. My character comes first.
So from writer Grant Morrison and artist Dan Mora. So let's talk about this. I think we talked in the last month about how we wanted Grant Morrison to do another Batman comic. Like, I wish he would do another. He loves to do those. Like, maybe he doesn't have any stories to tell.
Well, he said the thing you're remembering is he said he had talked to DC about a Batman thing. that he was going to come back because he doesn't do comics anymore, at least not a lot of comics anymore.
Yeah.
So for him to come back, it had to be something special, and we kept being like, what could it be about Batman that he hasn't said already? Fighting Deadpool is something he hasn't said already.
Yeah, this is a pretty big opportunity. And Dan Mora's art, I could tell you, I mean, dude, one of our 2 favorite artists on this book. I mean, it's going to be hard to be like, I wanted to be like, well, Dan Mora's going to be the better artist here. Well, no, you got Greg fucking Capullo on the other book. So
and I've gone through the gamut of emotions with this throughout the week, because this happened actually before we published the last episode, which was funny because it literally published this came out the day before I published, and I was like, of course it does. You honestly, Mike, strict honesty, Marvel could announce tomorrow Deadpool #1 written by Grant Morrison, and with this never happening, and I would have been like, I'm picking up Deadpool #1 written by Grant Morrison.
Oh hell yeah! Because
I want to know what the fuck Grant Morrison.
What is Grant Morrison going to write about Deadpool? Yeah.
You didn't need to have Batman crossing over with Deadpool for me to read a Grant Morrison Deadpool.
No,
because I've heard and read from other creators out there, like, you know, content creators out there, and no one can find where Grant Morrison has ever written Deadpool before.
Yeah.
So I want to know what a Grant Morrison Deadpool is.
And he doesn't do Marvel that often either. Like,
well, he did that X-Men book for a long time.
Yeah.
So he had a stint at Marvel, but he's never done a Deadpool book. Or had Deadpool
I read
in one of his books.
I loved his all new X-Men because I pretty much read every Grant Morrison book.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we'll finish this up. We haven't finished this section here. The landmark crossover marks the first major collaboration between DC and Marvel in decades, bringing together Gotham's Dark Knight detective and the Marvel's Deadpool in an explosive adventure that fans never expected, but always dreamed of. I had never dreamed of it and never expected it, but here we are. They also said that each issue will have backup stories from different creators. Some that have leaked and rumored include Kevin Smith, Chip Zdarsky, Kelly Thompson, former guest of the show, I got that one right, Adam Kubert, and more. Adam Kubert, what the hell? Yeah, this is insane. They're grabbing all of, like, the best artists and writers for this shit. This is crazy. And then you got Kevin Smith, but, you know, no, I'm just kidding. I do love the cover too. I mean, it's awesome. Like, and there looks
the
like
Capullo cover is really great. Like,
yeah, and is that like angels in heaven around them? Like,
it's a Grant Morrison story, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so like I said, I've gone through the gamut of emotions because when this first came out, I'm like, fuck. Like, of course, this finally happens. A thing I thought would never ever happen again because it's not about Marvel and DC, it's about Warner Brothers and Disney.
Yep.
That was my thought there.
Yeah.
And then we saw them reprint the classic versions. I was like, well, okay, they got together for that, but even that's probably an anomaly. And now we get this. I'm like, of course it happens, and it's these two.
Yeah.
Then we got Who's Doing It, and I was like, well, I was going to buy it anyways, but of course we're going to do this. And then I start seeing some of the other names attached. They're possibly attached to it, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. They're going to probably be, I guarantee you these are going to be oversized, like $10 issues, everybody. Mm-hmm. Prepare your wallet.
Yep.
And they said they're going to do more next year. So that means in 2026, Mike, you and I are probably in San Diego next month. Yeah. We're going to be talking about more of these.
Is insane.
And then just everything around it has been so
Superman
exciting.
And who's Superman and Spider-Man? Is that like the...
Well, they've done Superman and Spider-Man a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Like, who else? I think when they... Because there's a quote from Jim Lee in the article that I linked to it.
Yeah.
And he talks about it being like a once-in-a-generation thing. Like, this hasn't happened in 21 years. Mm-hmm. And usually every generation gets their version of the Marvel-DC crossover.
Yeah.
And this is this generation's. So I think when he says that, he also kind of hints at we want to do fun combinations. Mm. Hint, hint, combinations they haven't done before.
Wonder Woman and Gwenpool. Or Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but hopefully not.
Yeah. Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen was the character I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many. I mean, I could go grab the book and pull out everyone they've done, but that's a waste of time. There's so many cool ones they've never done before because this hasn't been done a ton. and I would love to see more and more. I am so happy. I was thinking about this when, this Wednesday coming out is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, and Mike, we live in a world where I'm just slightly less excited for that book, because Godzilla is crossing over with everything.
Right. I know. Isn't that crazy?
And just the idea of this kind of crossover, I literally have sat in the comic shop and said this will never happen again because of who's involved.
Oh yeah. And now we really know, because I think we might have speculated this, that when they reprinted the originals, that it was them testing the market, testing the water. Do people actually want this?
And
do people know this happened? Created demand that people didn't know it happened in the past. And
that was my thought. Like if you remember back to when the story was originally done, they pushed the release date of those omnibus because they didn't print enough, because they thought, hey, we'll print, I think it was like a stupid low number, like 3,000. And that'll be good for the market, whatever, because they were going off of what the JLA Avengers reprint for George Perez and his passing went for.
Yeah.
And then they saw the numbers. And I bet you everybody at DC Marvel was just like, this? Holy shit. Let's do this again. Who cares what beef there is?
Right.
WB, shut up. Disney, shut up. We're doing this. Look at these numbers.
Yeah, we can make money.
Yeah.
The almighty dollars involved.
Yeah, it's going to be insane, man. It's
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm super excited. And then at the end of the day, too, just Grant Morrison back in comics.
Yeah,
that's
Grant
kind
Morrison.
of the big. That's almost bigger of a story than the actual story for me.
Yeah,
that I get to pick up a Grant Morrison comic again.
Yeah, and like the thing of like Greg Capullo doing Batman again.
Yeah,
after going to Marvel, it's great. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things happening here.
And then one of the Dan Mora clones drawing this, like, of course.
Yeah, of course. He was like, "I'm available. I have 35 books.
Let me pull this clone out of the freezer for you to do it, while I continue to do 5 other books."
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That guy works, but I'm super excited. I cannot wait. Cannot wait for this.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to our website, everybody, we put up what's coming out in comic shops this week, and Mike and I choose like our favorite of the week. I'm just gonna call it now. The week this comes out, this will be both of our picks.
Oh yeah, which is fine because it's 2 different publishers, so it's technically 2 books, 2 books in one.
Well, we can do it twice, remember, because one's in September, one's in November. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Super exciting stuff. It's crazy that we're getting this. Comics are in a good place right now. There's so many comics to read that you and I can't physically read them all every week because there's so many good ones.
Yeah. And like I said, I'll be super excited to see what comes after this, because apparently 2026 is the year of the crossover between DC and Marvel, and they're going to do more.
It's all right. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some fun stuff in the next Deadpool movie too, of like him glimpsing into the DC, because he did make a joke about the DC universe in the last movie?
He might have.
I don't know. Maybe we get some fun stuff of like, I mean, we got Henry Cavill, right, as one of the Wolverines.
Yeah,
that was pretty, like, some more of that type of stuff. That was pretty funny,
Yeah, and I mean, I remember in the comics, there's been snipes at each other. Like I remember one. I think it was Thor.
Yeah.
When Donny Cates was writing it, he destroyed the DC universe in it. And then it might have been Batman. Maybe it was a Justice League book, but whoever was writing it at the time destroyed the Marvel universe in that book. Like you've seen little like snips at it.
Yeah.
And then awesome. Dark Knight's Metal, one of the 5 versions of that they did. Didn't they have Spider-Man in the background? But it wasn't Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, they said it wasn't Spider-Man. Yeah. In one of their Earths. Yeah.
So the writers and the artists have obviously wanted to do this forever. Like, of course they do. Why wouldn't they? But now we got the big wigs in.
Yep. All right. We don't need to talk about the rest of the news. No, I'm just kidding. Still some other cool stuff coming out. Like Dark Horse Comics announced a new He-Man comic, which is always cool, titled Master of the Universe, The Sword of Flaws. Okay, a story about swords. Sick. From writer Tim Seeley and artist Freddie E. Williams III. A legion of heroic warriors protects the magical realm known as Eternia, folks. They're led by Tila, captain of the Royal Guard. This is for the folks. This is all, like everybody else who doesn't pay attention to He-Man, which is most people. Man at Arms, weapons master, and combat instructor, and the powerful heroic He-Man. These heroes, known as the Masters of the Universe, keep threats like evil Skeletors minions at bay. But when ancient and evil artifact is unearthed from the depths, the Master of the Universe will have to scour the land in search of the Preternian power, or risk falling into the hands of the greatest enemies. Yeah, I'm here for these He-Man books. I love this shit. That second cover by I don't know who that second cover is, that but it's like an old school cover from like, yeah, I love that shit. And it's about a magical sword. Sick. Sign me up. Like, I don't need any further story than that.
I was trying to figure out who the variant cover was. Yeah. I'm with you. The variant cover is really cool.
Yeah.
I have yet to read a He-Man comic. I love that cartoon. Obviously, I know you're the bigger He-Man fan. There's not enough room in my life for more He-Man, honestly.
You didn't even read the Kevin Smith one that he did?
No.
Pretty good. It's all good stuff.
I'm sure they're great. It's all about time management for me.
All He-Man is for me is I open the page, I go, huh, that's cool. Which character do I get to see? Oh, I got to see him. Okay, I got to see Fistor. That's all that matters. Like,
trust me, I have that in my life. It's Star Wars.
It's
lightsaber.
Okay, next page.
Just for me, Masters of the Universe doesn't hit that bar for me.
Mad Cave Studios announced a new series titled Ghost Box from writer Mike Carey, artist Pablo Raimondi. Chloe and Jan come into an unexpected inheritance, and it couldn't be at a better time for Chloe. Desperate for cash, she advertises her late uncle's possessions online, in particular a strange little box, and gets a very motivated buyer. But when the deal goes south, Chloe's arrested for murder and Jan disappears. Superstars Mike Carey and Pablo Raimondi deliver a bold, supernatural thriller. Sounds really interesting. I like that cover. I think it's pretty dope. Not going to be something I can read at the time because I just a little at capacity for new books coming out. But it looks good. It looks good and sounds really cool.
Yeah. It does sound cool. I like the art style that's going on here. This is another one. This literally was announced as we were finishing up recording the show. Because I think if you listen to last week's episode, you can hear me go, oh, look, Mad Cave announced another book, and it's not in the notes.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it looks cool. It's just not going to be for me at the end of the day. And like you said, and I've said, I'm at capacity. Like, I can't take on much more.
Yeah.
So.
And then we're going to wrap up here with the news, with some sad news. Legendary Peter David passed away at the young age of 68. Peter had a prolific career in comics, TV, novels. He wrote many of the novels from original ideas to Star Trek, Halo, many comic book adaptations. In TV, he was one of the writers that J. Michael Straczynski to help with Babylon 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote for Ben 10, Young Justice as well. Yeah, that's the Young Justice series, amazing. In the comics world, the credits are endless. He will be remembered for his runs with Hulk, Aquaman, Captain Marvel, X-Factor, and of course, being the co-creator of Spider-Man 2099, which still gets comics to this day. We're always going back to 2099. So, really sad, really young. I mean, 68's young for this day and age. But man, what a legacy to leave behind. All the stuff that he wrote, all the universes he wrote in. So that's crazy.
Yeah, so there's so many rumors of Spider-Man 2099 being in Avengers Secret Wars or Avengers Doomsday, one of the two movies. Yeah. So the fact that he didn't get to see it in live action sucks.
Yeah,
but he did get to see a great animated movie with the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. I haven't read a ton of Peter David, although when I went through my bookshelf, I have a ton of Peter David novels, mostly the Halo ones. He did a surprising amount of Halo novels.
There was a lot of Halo novels. I remember that. I remember when they all came out.
And even like recently, I think really? Like 6 or 7 years ago, the new one came out, and I had it on my bookshelf, and it was like written by Peter David.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Obviously, I love X Factor. It's one of the few X things that I really enjoy. That's the book that he did with Michael Allred that has Dupe in it. And then the book that is most important to me in his catalog is Aquaman. What he did with Aquaman back in the day. Yeah. He made Aquaman cool. And to do that was no small task. So I would love to go back and read his Hulk sometime. You always hear great things about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, just I don't know how when the man slept. He had a wife, he had kids, and he was working nonstop and just creating amazing things. So
it's crazy. What a legacy to leave behind. So
yeah, sucks.
That's crazy.
But hopefully he is at peace now.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let's talk about the comics we read. I didn't read any this week. I'll catch up on what I read last week, Chris.
Okay.
Talk about that because I did read comics last week. I also purchased some physical comics. Let me show you here, Chris. My physical.
You got some Invincible Battle Beast to
hey,
show me.
So here's my Battle Beast #1. You know, I had to get the classic Otley cover, which I'll talk about in a second. Yep. Did you get a blind bag copy?
My local comic shop did not have the blind bags, Mike.
I had a feeling that was going to happen in my local comic shop, so I ordered mine from Midtown because they only allowed one per order. Which I don't think the local shops enforced. So.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did you get issue 2?
No, I didn't. That's what I was going to say. I did get a book that I don't have though, Marvel Team Up.
Oh, that's the one I wanted too.
Yeah, and it's gold and it's foil. I'm trying to hold it up. And this is actually, I don't have this in my Invincible collection, so this is like the perfect book for me to find.
That's the one I wanted because I think that's one of the more expensive ones to get too.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to speculate, yeah, it is.
Or if you just want to finish your collection, Mike.
Yeah.
It's funny to me that was part of it too, because we just talked about a DC and Marvel crossing over. That was a time when Kirkman was working at Marvel, and he got like Invincible was not a big thing back then. Remember this?
Yeah,
and he got that crossover.
It was crazy.
And then somehow like got Marvel to okay reprinting it and basically giving it away for free.
Yeah, that's insane.
I would love to hear the story of how he pulled that one off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he must have the rights to the issue still. He must have retained, because you know what I'm thinking, Chris? Like at the time Invincible wasn't popular, they're like, sure, you'll give you the rights.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. Does it say which issue it is?
It's Marvel Team Up issue 14.
Yeah, Marvel
Team Up. The only problem with it is it's Corey Walker doing the art. No offense to Corey, but everybody knows Invincible for Otley's art.
Yeah, it wasn't. Corey was one of the original creators.
Yeah, he was the original artist. Yeah.
I'm trying to see. Yeah, so I think this is one. I can't tell what's a reprint or not. But the first thing that pops up on eBay is almost $400 for the issue.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'll never own this.
Yeah, that was I wasn't gonna buy it for my collection.
Oh,
the original.
The one you got's like 30. I might be willing to do that. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is a way for me to own this story that I never had before.
Yeah, so. That's the one I wanted more than anything, because a lot of the other ones, like issue 2, whatever, I can wait a month. Yeah. I just wanted that, and I wanted to be a part of the whole like blind bag thing, and then my shop didn't get any, which does not shock me.
Midtown had them for $4, so if they still have them, just order one from Midtown.
Oh, they're 100% sold out by now, but I can try.
Yeah, you can check it out. I think with that though, I guess we'll just talk about what we read this week. Before Chris orders his.
I'm gonna see if they have any.
60. Did I read Batman? Yes, I read Batman 160. No, I started to read Batman 160. I didn't finish it.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That's the hard.
What?
I found so Jetpack Comics, which I'm not a huge fan of, but
yeah.
I just typed in like blind bag whatever, and I found that they have blind bag cover C, which is the blind bag like hard to find variant cover, and it's $900. And I was like, you're charging $900 for a blind bag?
What the hell?
But that's not what it was. It's just that cover.
That's the special edition,
which is weird too. What'd the blind bag look like?
It was like Battle Beast on the front, just his face.
Okay, yeah, people are selling it for $30-$40. So
just the blind bag issue. That's so weird.
No, just a blind bag as was.
Oh, I think I threw it out after I opened it.
Well, no, like the unopened blind bag.
Yeah, the unopened blind. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh, okay.
And then Midtown has it for $12.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not bad. I could buy one.
All right, now let's talk about what we read this week. Did you read? Well, I guess we already talked about Battle Beast came out when
A while, a couple weeks ago.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
yeah, we definitely talked about that.
Absolute Flash number 3. I know you're not reading Absolute Flash, but we get more of Baby Grodd, and he kind of like they send Baby Grodd in to like take out the Flash, to take out Wally, and then he kind of realizes he's trapped like Baby Grodd is. He's kind of like, you know, a prisoner that just has to do the evil bidding. So he helps Wally escape the rogues. And Barry Allen is dead now, or it seems like he's dead. But at some point he showed up asking for help, like running through the time stream. But we see his body as a skeleton in the Flash suit. So almost like a crisis event kind of thing. So we'll see where that goes. Fantastic Four number 32, which is actually Fantastic 1. So the daughter of Reed Richards figures out how to figures out that they all lost their powers, and where Franklin the son becomes Galactus in this universe now that they never got their powers. So she has to like convince Galactus to like fix things, but he keeps his parents alive, but he like wipes their minds to not remember that they had other kids and all this other stuff. So it was a cool issue, but then she sends info because they can't go back in time, but she sends the info back in time of like to stop them from ever using the cosmic rays, which is cool, and that's kind of how they resolve the whole issue.
I know that the Franklin becoming Galactus thing is a consistent Fantastic Four thing, consistent Marvel thing, because I remember, I think it was called History of the Marvel Universe that Mark Waid wrote, and the whole premise of it is that when the 616 ends, that means that Galactus can finally die, and he has to give his knowledge to Franklin, and that's like the whole premise. Like, I gotta give you the history of the universe, and thus we get the Marvel Universe. And Galactus will become the being in the next universe that survives.
Yeah, and that's kind of how they did this, where she has to send the knowledge back.
Yeah.
Space Ghost number 11. That was the villain team up, which is pretty awesome. Blip gets captured though, which is concerning, and they're all trying to hide while they're trying to escape. So that was cool to see all the big team up and them beating Space Ghost and the kids. So great issue. Blade Forger number 3. So this is like that book about like the swordsmans and like the big like beasts that they captured. Mm-hmm. The current emperor, who like the book is based off of like how he got into power, ends up killing himself at like a court hearing that immediately gives the power to his daughter, but he also gives her the forge that he acquired that's really strong that nobody had. The problem with that is she's very like a progressive thinker and like wants to take action, so a lot of the people don't want her in power and are already planning to kill her, and one of the villains kind of looks like Skeletor, which is awesome. So New Gods number 6. So this is the issue that talks about how Light Ray died, and he's actually like in the afterlife with the Black Racer. The Black Racer like wants him to. The Black Racer's treated almost like the fairy to like the afterlife. So he's trying to help him come back. So something is going on in that world, the in between space, and so the Black Racer figures he has to come to Earth now to help out because like something weird is going on in his in between space where things are messed up. Superman and Orion are still fighting, which is awesome. But then a New God ship starts crashing into Earth, and the Justice League like stops it from happening. So everything's meeting up now. The whole fight and in space is now coming to Earth, and so like the Justice League shows up and they're getting involved, which is cool. Having the Justice League just show up in other comics where we have a Justice League Unlimited comic is great because it's like, oh yeah, the Justice League is around and still doing stuff. I read Batman Superman Annual number 1 and then issue 39. The Legion of Doom gets a bunch of time travel devices and is able to go to the future with their new team and like take over the future. The future is the present Justice League Unlimited, but the Batman and Dick Grayson and Supes are swap world. They like swap from the Batman Superman timeline. It's a little confusing, but now the current Batman, Superman, and Robin are like lost in time somewhere. is what it seems like. So that was a pretty interesting development. And that's all I got to from all my stuff last week, and then I have a bunch of books this week. But...
one book I talked about last week that I'd be interested to hear from you. Did you or do you plan on reading Superman Unlimited? So apparently I pre-ordered it. So
yeah. Oh,
because I had talked about how I was kind of off it. So I pre-ordered it. I have to buy it, or at least that's how I feel, because I don't want to stick the comic shop with it. And I read it, and it wasn't bad.
Oh, okay.
My biggest issue with it is you could take the whole middle of the book out, because it was Dan Slott being like, "Look, I know Superman," and he just retold the history.
Yeah.
But I'll just leave you with this: the whole premise of it is that a meteor's heading to Earth. Superman goes to like stop it, like he would. But then you find out that the meteor is made completely out of kryptonite. And so it falls down to Earth. He's able to like move it just enough where it doesn't destroy anything, and lands on Superman. He's stuck under a rock of kryptonite. Justice League gets him out, saves his life, but he's in a coma for 3 months. And when he wakes up, he's entered into a world where there's this city, I forget where, that their biggest natural resource that's given them wealth is kryptonite. So they now make they get their power source from kryptonite. All their buildings are made of kryptonite. Like everything is kryptonite, and there's all these kryptonite weapons all over the world.
Wow.
So now we're in a world where like his biggest weakness is there, but then there's another reveal that Superman has this extra superpower that they don't know how long it's going to last, where he's no longer vulnerable to kryptonite. But the rest of the super people are.
Damn.
It was interesting. I'll give him that.
That is an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how long he can last on it. But my biggest thing is he could have skipped the whole look how much I know about Superman and retold me every Superman story that's ever been written.
Yeah. That is a little annoying.
Yeah. That might be one. Let me read it and tell you how it is after like 6 issues.
Well, I just figured, I mean, from that whole like wedding story thing, I was kind of like, I don't really.
Well, there was 2 lines he had in the special, the summer Superman special. Literally 2 lines of dialogue where I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm not reading this.
Yeah, I know.
And he didn't do it in that book, so I'll give him that. But speaking of Superman, I have Superman 26.
Nice.
Which I know you're behind on, but it's a good issue.
Yeah.
So the synthetic red kryptonite that Superman was infected with early on in the run is now like coming back to bite him in the ass, and he's turning into basically a rage monster.
Hell yeah!
So basically Hulk.
He's a Hulk. We got Superman Hulk, folks.
So we're dealing with the backlash of Lois not having her powers anymore, and he's going through like these mood swings, and he's trying to figure out how it's Luthor's fault, but it's not Luthor's fault. It's those dudes from early on in the run. I forget their names at this point. And Luthor not only promises Superman, hey, if like I promise you, if you work with me this time, I won't fuck you over.
Yeah.
Which of course he's going to.
He's going to, of course.
But I can give Lois back her powers, and I can get rid of the red kryptonite poisoning. And then we see at the end he meets with those 2 people in prison to be like, what did you do and how do I fix this? So he definitely has an ulterior motive, but it seems like he's going to keep his promise, assuming that Superman works with him. Hyde Street number 6.
Nice.
Which I found out at the end of this that there's a Hyde Street miniseries coming out that's not written by Jeff Johns.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up. I think I'm going to stick just with regular Hyde Street. But
yeah,
we're kind of getting the crust of what the book is. And Mr. X-Ray is trying to figure out how he can bring the other people in Hyde Street together to take down the Boy Scout kid. Meanwhile, the Boy Scout kid is like fucking with the one chick who has the supplements and diet shop from the one shot.
Yep.
And I'll just put it at Mr. X-Ray has an idea. And he gets that through something he does that brings more souls to his countdown. And he figures out, oh, this is how I get rid of the kid.
Okay.
It was cool. And it's finally, it's kind of out of the one-shot territory and more into this is really what the book is going to be about.
That's cool.
So, Absolute Wonder Woman number 8.
Nice.
So, Hayden Sherman's back, which I think I'm the only person on Earth who think that's a downgrade.
Yep.
But it does look good. And basically, if you remember the Tetracide monster from the first story arc, somebody in the government took that sound, recorded it, and is now using it to create weapons. But the person who I'm trying to be vague because I know you're going to read it. The person they've imprisoned to do that for them is not too happy with that idea, even though she worked with them. So cool. It's a brand new story arc, and we're setting things up here. Seems really good.
Nice.
Ultimate Spider-Man number 17. Harry's not dead. He's still alive.
Damn.
So there's the Sinister Six are getting together. Spider-Man's still in hiding, but he finds out that Harry's not dead anymore, so maybe he can come out of hiding. We see what Wilson Fisk is doing, which is being Wilson Fisk.
Classic Wilson.
Batman 160.
Yeah. Hush. I started it. I haven't finished the issue yet.
So we get Hush's plan. Like something. So there's a cool part. There's something going on with Jason Todd. Because of his resurrection, his brain is not functioning properly. So he goes to a brain surgeon, Hush, to help him. And Hush is using him as part of his plan to get back at Batman. I will fix your brain. So now we understand what's going on there. That's a cool concept. The whole, at the end, he basically has a gun at the back of the head of every Robin and says, pick one. And we know how that's going to go. So it's just not doing it for me. Unless next issue they kill 2 of the 3 Robins, which I'll be like, holy shit.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But there's something about the Hush 2 that's not working for me.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just not good.
I just think it was a bad idea, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Red Coat number 12.
Nice.
Time travel shenanigans abound, Mike.
Okay, here we go.
So Northerner outs himself as a time traveler from a different timeline where the South wins the Civil War.
Oh, shit.
And because that happens, all the people that gained immortality, Simon Pure, are no longer immortal. And as soon as America dies, their powers dissipate and they die.
Oh, damn.
So that's how he sucks Simon into his task to do this. And we find out that the Northerner has been fighting against another time traveler who basically brought back an encyclopedia of day by day what happened during the Civil War and has been selling those secrets to the South little by little. Because he literally opens up a safe and there's like this is what happened day by day, the Civil War book. So interesting. So it adds it's a Civil War book, but then there's Tommy guns and machine guns and Glocks and shit in it. So
hell yeah. That's what you want in your Civil War.
Daredevil Cold Day in Hell number 2. There's gonna be a 3-issue series, and now that we're in this, what Charles Soule and Steve McNiven are doing at its core is Daredevil Dark Knight Returns, and I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. Daredevil's powers back. He's doing Daredevil shit. He finds out that the government did something during the superhero war that was to bring back superpowers. And one of the superpowers they wanted to bring back was Daredevil's. So now they have all this radioactive ooze that created Daredevil in a warehouse somewhere. So while Daredevil's trying to figure out how to get to Bullseye, who we find out at the end of the issue is working for found out about the government's plan and is going to steal that ooze. The same ooze that created Ninja Turtles, everybody. But he's going about trying to figure all this out to find Bullseye, runs into Elektra. And something's going on with Elektra because she hasn't aged one day. Meanwhile, Daredevil's an old man. She offers him immortality, all that shit happens. And at the end of the issue, we find out that Daredevil's going to stay who he is. He thinks he only has a certain amount of time to finish this task. So he's going to keep going. Bullseye has found the safe with all the ooze in it and is now going to go about creating super criminals with Daredevil-esque powers. This is his plan.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
It's really cool, but the whole issue is like him contemplating mortality and like, I only have this much time left to finish my last mission as Daredevil and all this stuff. So I'm getting hard Dark Knight Returns vibes.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hulk and Doctor Strange, one of these one-shots.
Yeah.
This is Doctor Strange sends Bruce Banner back in a time using the astral plane to contemplate his origin, because Bruce has come to the conclusion that everyone who's been affected by gamma powers, whatever they were prior to having gamma powers, has now been made better. Kind of the idea that if you're a good person and then you get rich, you continue to be a good person. But if you're an asshole and then you get rich, you're just a bigger asshole.
Right, yeah.
So he's trying to figure out why he thinks he's a good person, but he became a rage monster when everybody else just became better because of it. And we get kind of the answer to that in this. So it was more introspective issue, but not a bad one. And then a couple more. A Kickstarter issue from a former guest of the show, Frankenstein Unconquered, Chapter 5.
Nice.
So during the interview, I talked about how an issue in Kickstarter takes so long, you have to go back and figure out whether you read the rest of them. That story came from this, because I couldn't remember.
That's funny, yeah, because it came out a while ago.
Yeah, because they come out so sparingly, but it's really good. It's Frankenstein dealing with the consequences of what he did in the past, and the fact that his son hates him and then tries to kill him. So obviously Frankenstein wins, and then the issue ends with him realizing that Victor Frankenstein, the man who created him, is still out there. So now his mission is to go and take care of that problem.
Nice.
Books I'm reading for my retro reread. We talk about one of these almost every week, but Fool Killer. I read 4 and 5 this week. Cool. And Mike, how goofy is that fucking costume?
I love that shit. That's awesome. The open chest is just amazing.
So in issue 4, it's his training montage. This is how he trains to become Fool Killer. And then we get a full page spread of him in that stupid costume. And I hate it. It's so awesome. 90s and so bad.
It's amazing.
But then issue 5, it's him going out and doing the deed. He finds these criminals and calls them fools and shoots them with his laser gun. And a bunch of shit like that. It was a cool time for the issue.
Yeah. And
it's him really growing into the role and realizing what it is. I just love at the end of the day that throughout it's basically Punisher, but he just gets mad at people for being fools.
That's awesome.
So it's been a cool series so far. We'll continue with it. And then I read a reprint of a classic comic that I've always wanted to read, Mike, which is Elf Quest.
Oh, hell yeah.
The original series, issues 1 through 5, and one of the one-shots they did.
Cool.
I think you would like it, first off.
Yeah.
It is very 70s. It has that feel, which I enjoy. So take that with it. But they build a cool world where you've got these wood elves, and you see kind of it feels like they're on a Middle Earth-esque world.
Cool.
But the elves come from space.
Oh, that's
And
weird.
then we are generations past when that happened, and they're stuck on this world. So when they get to the world, humans are just cave people.
Oh, interesting.
So they grow. So by the point we're at, they're more nomadic, and they've got tribes and everything. And there's a obvious confrontation between elves and humans. We get to see trolls in it. I mean, that's one of the trolls in the issue. And different things. But at the end of the day, they end up leaving the forest for reasons that I won't spoil, and end up in a desert-like area where they find there's different elves. Mike, maybe darker skinned elves. There may be an analogy going on here.
Okay. Yep.
And they have to learn to live together because, hey, what else can they do? And at its core, it's about people of the same tribe but look different getting together. It's a love story, but there's a lot of great action. There's a lot of great fantasy stuff in here. And I got volume 2 upstairs. I'm excited to keep going with it. I think it's a really cool book, especially if you have to be down with kind of that classic comic style. I think it's got better art than a lot of those classic comics do. That might be because they touched up some things, but it does still have some of that feel of how the story flows back in the 70s and 80s. So
interesting.
Take that with what it is.
Yeah.
And they're not bad. This nice hardcover that Dark Horse is putting out, these are $20, $25.
Oh, that's not bad at
Yeah.
all. Yeah,
For
that's awesome.
basically 6 issues, and they're like 32, 34 page issues. They're not
cool.
Yeah. So
That's
would
awesome.
recommend. But Mike, that was everything I read this week. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter/X. Where can they find you and or the show?
You can find me on X at Fortress Chris, and also chriscomicscorner.substack.com. You can find the show on X or other social media networks at Fortress Pod, also at fortresscomicnews.com. And if you want to support the show, the 5-star reviews and the podcatchers on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, share, comment down below, or you can go over to patreon.com/fortresscomics for more. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening this week. See you all here next week.